Hi, in this video, we will talk about try, catch, finally control flow. How the control flow will be in when you use try, catch, finally. So with the help of some cases, we'll try to understand how the exactly control flow will be when you use try, catch, finally. So for that, let me go to Visual Studio Code. And here I have already created one class called try, catch, finally control flow example. So inside that I have a try block, catch block, finally block. Okay, inside the try I have three statements. In the catch I have one statement. In the finally I have one statement. Outside of all these things I have one more statement here. Okay, so I have few cases here. So we'll see first. So no exception in try block. So how the output will be, how the flow will be, what is the output? If an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding catch block matched. Okay, so there is an exception in statement 2 and corresponding catch block is there. And if an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding catch block not matched, okay, then what could be the flow and what could be the output? If an exception raised at statement 4, if an exception raised at statement 5, if an exception raised at statement 6, 4 where it is in the catch. In the catch also, there is an exception raised. In the finally block also, if exception raises. Outside of all these things, right, there is no try catch block here. So here, if you have any exception here, how the execution will be. Okay. So we'll try to execute and see how it will be. So before that, if no exception in try block, so how the execution will be. So if there is no exception, so it will come to the where here it will execute 1, 2, 3 in the try block. There is no exception, then it will never go to the catch. So it will not execute statement 4. Finally will execute always. So it will print this one. So once you come out of that, it will print this one as it is. There is no exception, nothing. And then smooth execute, smooth termination. Right. There is no exception means smooth termination. Right. So that will happen. So let me clear this. And I'm expecting output is 1, it will print one statement 1, and 2, and 3. It will not go to the catch, so 4 is not there. 5, 6, smooth termination. Okay, so let me go to the command prompt, Java file name.java. You see that statement 1, 2, 3, 4 is not there, so it will not go to the catch as there is no exception. Statement 5 from the finally, statement 6 out of all these things, and there is no exception, smooth termination. Right, this is one thing. So if you have, if an exception raised at statement 2 and corresponding catch block match. So in the statement 2, what I'll do, I'll raise an exception. So what I'll do, I'll put one arithmetic exception, 5/0. So what happens here, once again, if you talk about this thing, so first it will come, statement 1 will execute. Then it will come here, it will raise an exception. So it will search for corresponding catch block. So if this is arithmetic exception, we have arithmetic exception. So it will come here, it will execute this one. Okay. So after this, anyhow, it will go to the finally, it will execute 5, it will execute 6. We have handled the exception. So smooth termination. Okay. So 1, 4, 5, 6, smooth termination. So let me clear this and we'll try to write here. What is that? 1, there is no 2. So if you have some exception, it will not execute the remaining statement. So 3 will also not there. So it will go to the catchback 4 and it will go to the finally. So it will go to 6, then smooth termination. Okay. So we'll try to execute and see whether we are getting the same output or not. You see that 1, 4, 5, 6 and smooth termination. So that's how the flow will be. Okay. So the next is, what is that? if an exception raised its statement 2 and corresponding catch block not matched. So this is not matched. So what I will do, I will change it to something else. So number format exception. Okay, the same thing, it is number format exception. Now how the execution will be. So first it will come in the try. So first it will print 1. So but it founds an exception at statement 2, 5 by 0, that is arithmetic exception. It will search for any arithmetic exception catch block. So there is no corresponding catch block. So it will not come here. So statement 4 will not execute. So whether irrespective of anything, it will come to the finally, right? So you will get this 5, right? You will get this 5, but it is abnormal termination, right? So because of that, it will not execute 6. So abnormal termination. It will print only 1, 5, then exception. It will print an exception. If it is printing an exception means abnormal termination. So what it will be? Let me print that. 1, 5, and then abnormal termination. Abnormal termination means it will print that exception. What is that exception? Okay. You see that? 1, 5 abnormal termination. 1, 5, and then there is an exception we did not handle. So it is printing that exception here. So because of that, this is abnormal termination, right? That is how the flow will be. So now another, if an exception raised at statement 4. Okay. If an exception raised at statement 4. So let me put this back. So I'll not raise this here. Control C, let it be, but so it raised at this statement 4, right? So how it will be? So let me take this annotation. So first it will come here in the try block. I do not have any issues. So it will print 1, it will print 2, it will print 3. Then when you come here you found arithmetic exception, but we are not handling. There is no catch block, there is no try block, right? So then we are not handling. It will have abnormal termination. Even though if it is abnormal termination, it will go to the finally. So it will print 5. So 1, 2, 3, 5 abnormal termination, right? 1, 2, 3, 5, then abnormal termination. So we'll write all these things and we'll try to execute and see. So here 1, 2, 3, 5, abnormal termination. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 5 abnormal termination. So we'll try to execute that. What we did. System.out.println at 5 by 0, and then there is no handling code, so it has to come this way. I did not save the program, it seems. So let me execute again. Why it is giving 1, 2. So we made a mistake, like it is executing properly. The reason is, if there is no exception in try, it will never go to the catch, whether you have exception or not. What we need to do, we need to go to here. If you want to go here, you should have a 5 by 0 here, and I'll put arithmetic exception. Okay. So in the statement 3, I do not have statement. Otherwise, we'll do one thing. We'll put like this. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, then there is a exception, so it will go to the catch block. Here also exception, so it will terminate, abnormal termination. So before that it will print 5. So that is what we saw, right? So 1, 2, 3, 5 abnormal termination. So we did not go to the catch block, right? Because of that, there is a smooth termination. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and then abnormal termination. So that is how it will be. If an exception raised in statement 4, if you want to raise an exception in statement 4 here, first you have to go there, right? If you want to go there to the catch, we have an exception. You should be have an exception at try. So then it came here. So here also there is no handling code. So because of that, it is raising. Before that, it is printing all these statements. That's how the flow will be. Okay. So now, what is that? If an exception raised at statement 5. Okay. Statement 5. So let me comment here. Let me comment here. So this exception I found at here. Okay. In the finally. If it is in the finally, how the flow will be. Okay. So if I try to annotate here, we'll see. So normally it will come in the try. In the try, I do not have any exceptions. 1, 2, 3, no problem. So it will not come here. So it will come here anyhow. Here we have what? Abnormal termination. Right, there is no handling code. So abnormal termination. If it is abnormal termination, it will never go to the next statements. So what could be the output? 1, 2, 3, abnormal termination. Okay. So we'll see 1, 2, 3, abnormal termination. Let me clear this. Let me write that one here. 1, 2, 3, abnormal termination. Okay. This is case 6. So if you try to execute this now, you see that 1, 2, 3, then abnormal termination. It is raising arithmetic exception. We are not able to handle there, means we do not have try catch in the finally. Right. So because of that, it is raising abnormal termination after printing 1, 2, 3. So if this is the case, at line number in statement 6. So I'll comment this out. I'll put here. Okay. So now we'll try to see how the execution will be. So it will come to the try. So obviously 1, 2, 3, there is no exception. It will never go to here. So it will not print 4. Anyhow, finally will execute. So it will print 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. And then here, arithmetic exception, but there is no try catch anything. So here abnormal termination. 1, 2, 3, 5, then abnormal termination. So we'll see by executing this. First, we'll try to write the output. 1, 2, 3, 5, abnormal termination. Okay. Let me execute this. You see that 1, 2, 3, 5, then abnormal termination. Right. So this is how the flow will be. You can try multiple combinations, but just to show how it will be. So I've taken 6 cases. One is no exception in try block. If an exception raised in statement 2 and corresponding catch block match, corresponding catch block not match. If it is the exception raised in the catch block itself, if the exception raised in the finally block, if the exception raised at the outside of all these things, how the flow will be. Okay. This is how try catch finally control flow example. So what could be the possible interview questions from here? So control flow in try catch finally, they might give some one of the examples like this. They might ask what could be the output of that. Okay. So that's all in this video. Thank you.